Welcome to Cherry Blossom BL Story, where emotions bloom and stories unfold. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's chapter. In the shadowed heart of Blackhold, where torches flicker like dying stars against endless stone, a whisper echoes through the corridors, a secret so deadly that to speak it aloud means death. They say the Iron Regent's blood is poison, that every child born to his house draws breath only to scream it away, that the gods themselves have cursed his line to end in silence. But tonight, a carriage climbs the frozen mountain road, carrying a fragile offering from a desperate kingdom. A delicate omega, bound in crimson silk, sold to break the curse, or to shatter beneath it. One will conquer, one will yield. And in the iron grip of obsession, something far darker than love will be born. The Age of Iron does not forgive weakness, and it is about to claim its next victim. Chapter 1: The Cursed Region. The Age of Iron was an age that did not forgive weakness. Under the heavy grey skies of the northern expanse, the Iron Kingdom sprawled like a bruise upon the map, vast, indomitable, and thirsting for conquest. It was a land forged in the fires of ambition and tempered by the blood of the fallen, ruled by a hierarchy that valued strength above all else. At the apex of this jagged pyramid sat the Alpha Regent, Tristan Elwood. His fortress, Blackhold, was a monstrosity of dark stone and jagged spires that pierced the sky like spears. It sat atop a barren mountain, isolated from the warmth of the valleys below, a physical manifestation of the man who commanded it. Within those walls, the air was perpetually cold, thick with the scent of old armor, burning pitch, and the silent, suffocating weight of fear. Tristan Elwood was a ruler carved from the very mountain his fortress rested upon. He was a giant of a man, broad-shouldered and imposing, with features that looked as if they had been hewn by a blade that refused to smooth the edges. His eyes were the color of a storm-tossed sea, dark, churning, and utterly devoid of light. He had crushed a dozen rebellions before the age of 30, toppled kings who dared to meet his gaze, and silenced gods with the sheer force of his will. They called him the Iron Regent not for his armor, but for his heart. It was a heart that beat with a slow, rhythmic coldness, pumping ice through his veins instead of blood. Mercy was a foreign concept to him, a weakness for lesser men. Compassion was a luxury he could not afford. Yet, for all the power he wielded, for all the nations that bent the knee to his iron boot, there was a poison in his cup that no amount of conquest could dilute. He sat upon his throne in the great hall, a seat of blackened steel that offered no comfort. His generals stood at attention, heads bowed, waiting for a word that might spell their promotion or their execution. But Tristan's gaze was fixed on the empty air above them, his mind drifting to the shadows that haunted his bloodline. The curse. It was a whisper that ran through the stone corridors of Blackhold like a draft, impossible to seal out. Despite his strength, despite his undeniable virility, the Alpha Regent was barren. He had 4 wives. They were women of noble birth, daughters of conquered kings and vanquished chieftains, chosen for their beauty, their grace, and the strength of their lineage. They lived in the Silken Quarter, a gilded cage within the fortress, adorned in jewels and draped in the finest fabrics the empire could plunder. The first wife, Lady Isolde, had been with him for 10 years. She was pale and sharp-tongued, her beauty faded by the bitterness of failure. The second and third wives, sisters from the Southern Isles, were vibrant and fierce, but their bellies remained flat despite years of trying. The fourth, a young girl named Seraphina, had arrived 2 years ago with high hopes, but now she merely stared out the window, her eyes hollow. None had succeeded. Not one child had survived his house. There had been pregnancies, brief flashes of hope that had been extinguished as quickly as they had sparked. Miscarriages, stillbirths, children who drew breath only to gasp their last within the hour. The midwives left his chambers weeping, terrified to speak the truth that everyone already knew. The empire whispered that the gods had judged him. They said his hands were too stained with blood to hold innocent life. They spoke of a divine punishment, a sterile curse to end a line of tyrants. Some whispered that the regent himself was broken, incapable of creating life, only capable of ending it. No one dared say it aloud within Black Hole. To speak of the regent's failure was to invite a visit from the executioner. But the silence was louder than any scream. Tristan's hand gripped the armrest of his throne, his leather gloves creaking under the pressure. His legacy was a castle built on sand, a mighty empire that would crumble into dust the moment he died because there was no heir to inherit it. His name would be erased from history, not by defeat, but by the simple, cruel silence of an empty nursery. The thought sent a fresh wave of icy fury through him. He did not desire a son out of love. He desired an heir out of necessity. He needed a continuation of his power, a vessel to pour his strength into when his own body failed. He needed to prove that the curse was a lie, that his blood was not poison. In the vast, echoing hall, the weight of that unspoken fear pressed down like the mountain itself, waiting for the day it would crush him. Chapter 2: The Bargain in the Borderlands. The kingdom of Shen clung to the southern edge of the Iron Empire, like a dying vine, fragile and fading under the shadow of its northern neighbor. Where the Iron Kingdoms were forged of stone and steel, Shen had once been a land of soft hills, winding rivers and ancient orchards. Now the fields lay fallow, choked with weeds. The rivers ran low and muddy. The castle itself, once a graceful sprawl of pale stone and ivy, stood patched and crumbling, its towers leaning like weary sentinels. Debt had gnawed at its foundations for years, and hunger stalked its people like a patient wolf. In the highest tower of this decaying estate, Oliver Shen sat by a narrow window that looked out over nothing but gray mist and barren trees. He was small for an Omega, slight of frame and delicate of feature, with skin as pale as winter milk and eyes the color of rain-washed leaves. His hands folded quietly in his lap were long-fingered and perpetually cold. A book lay open on the sill before him, but he had not turned a page in hours. Reading had always been his refuge, a way to escape the silence of a home that had never truly been his. Oliver was the son of the late king's second marriage, a union born of politics rather than passion. His mother had died birthing him, and his father had followed her to the grave when Oliver was barely 10. What little affection the court had once shown him had withered under the rule of his stepmother, Queen Valerica. She had never struck him. She had never needed to. Neglect was her weapon, sharp, silent, and effective. Meals came irregularly. New clothes were rare. Invitations to court functions never arrived. He existed on the periphery, a ghost in his own house, valued only for the inconvenience he represented. He had learned early that silence was safer than tears. Oliver. The voice cut through the quiet like a blade. He flinched, closing the book with trembling fingers and rising to his feet. Queen Valerica stood in the doorway, draped in velvet that had grown threadbare at the cuffs and hems. Her jewelry, once abundant, had dwindled to a few remaining pieces, pawned one by one to keep soldiers fed and creditors at bay. Yet her eyes still burned with the fierce ambition that had won her a crown. "Stepmother," Oliver said softly, bowing his head. "You wish to see me? Come closer." He obeyed, approaching until he stood a few respectful paces away. The scent of bitter wine clung to her, mingling with the ever-present mildew of the castle. Valerica studied him for a long moment, her gaze cold and calculating. "Do you know what winter will bring?" she asked at last. Oliver shook his head. "The granaries are low, Your Majesty. The people will starve," she interrupted sharply. "And when they do, the Iron Regent's armies will march across our borders and take what little remains, unless something is done." Oliver's heart quickened. He had heard the rumors, messengers arriving in secret, sealed letters bearing the Black Wolf sigil, frantic council meetings behind closed doors. But no one had told him anything. No one ever did. I have spent months negotiating, Valerica continued, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. I have begged, I have borrowed, I have bled this kingdom dry to buy us time. And now, at last, a bargain has been struck. She reached into her bodice and withdrew a scroll of heavy parchment, sealed with a thick blob of black wax. The imprint of a snarling wolf stared up at Oliver like a living thing. A treaty with the Iron Regent, she said, smoothing the scroll against the table. He will send gold to repair our walls and fill our granaries. He will station troops to guard our borders. Shen will survive. Relief flickered through Oliver, tentative, fragile. Survival was the only prayer he had ever dared to voice. That is good news, he whispered. But what does he ask in return? Valerica's lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached her eyes. We have nothing he wants. No iron, no grain, no army worth the name. But there is one thing we possess in abundance. One thing I am more than willing to surrender. Her gaze fixed on him then, and the relief in Oliver's chest turned to ice. He took an involuntary step back. I don't understand. He needs an heir, Valerica said coldly. His noble wives have failed him for years. Some say his blood is cursed. Some say he requires something softer, more pliable, an omega to bear what stronger vessels could not. Oliver's hands clutched at the fabric of his worn tunic. His voice came out barely a breath. You cannot mean. I can, and I have, she said, slamming her palm on the table. The wolf seal seemed to pulse in the dim light. I have given him you. The word struck like a physical blow. Oliver's knees weakened. He caught the edge of the table to stay upright. No, he whispered. Please, stepmother, no more. Valerica's expression did not soften. You are useless here, she said. You faint at the sight of blood. You weep over dead birds. You consume food we cannot spare and give nothing in return. But to the Regent, you are valuable. A pretty untouched omega who might finally give him the son his empire demands. You're selling me, Oliver said, tears rising hot and fast. To that monster. I am saving my kingdom, Valerica snapped. Your duty is clear. You will go to Blackhold. You will submit. You will bear his child if it kills you. And in exchange, Shen lives. She pushed the scroll toward him. It was already signed, her elegant script beside the bold, slashing mark of Tristan Elwood. The black wax had hardened. The bargain was complete. You leave at dawn, she said. There is no discussion. No plea will change it. You are no longer a prince of Shen. You are payment. Oliver stared at the wolf seal until it blurred through his tears. Stories of the Iron Regent flooded his mind. Tales of cruelty, of wives locked away like ornaments, of a man whose heart was colder than the mountain he ruled from. Please, he begged, sinking to his knees. I will work in the kitchens. I will scrub floors. Anything, just don't send me to him. Valerica looked down at him with something close to disgust. He will not kill you, she said. He has use for you. That is worse perhaps, but it is your fate. She turned and walked to the door. Pack what little you claim as yours, she called over her shoulder. The carriage will not wait. The door closed behind her with finality. Oliver remained on the floor, arms wrapped around himself, silent sobs shaking his slender frame. The tower room, his prison and sanctuary for years, felt suddenly smaller, the walls closing in. Outside, the mist thickened, swallowing the dying kingdom whole. Far to the north, in the cold heart of Blackhold, the bargain had been accepted. And Oliver Shen, the forgotten omega of a crumbling throne, had been sold to the devil in exchange for survival. Chapter 3. The Crimson Cage. The morning Oliver was to leave Shen arrived cloaked in frost and silence. No bells rang. No courtiers gathered. The crumbling courtyard held only a single black carriage bearing the wolf sigil of the Iron Empire, its wheels caked in mud from the long road north. 4 silent guards in dark plate stood beside it, their faces hidden behind visored helms. They might have been statues but for the faint plume of breath in the cold. Oliver had not slept. His tower room felt smaller than ever, the walls pressing in as though the castle itself wished to be rid of him. He had packed nothing. There was nothing he dared claim as his own. When the door opened at dawn, 2 stern-faced maids entered without knocking. They carried a bundle of crimson silk that shimmered like fresh blood in the weak light. "Up," the elder maid said flatly. "The queen commands you dressed." Oliver rose on shaking leg. He did not resist as they stripped away his worn linen nightshirt and replaced it with the foreign garment. The silk was heavier than it looked, lined with stiff embroidery that scratched his skin. It fell to his ankles, high-colored and long-sleeved, designed to conceal rather than reveal. A wide sash bound his waist so tightly he could scarcely draw full breath. Around each wrist, they tied a ceremonial ribbon, crimson of course, knotted in an elaborate pattern that looked disturbingly like manacles disguised as ornament. When they turned him to the cracked mirror, Oliver barely recognized the reflection. The boy who had drifted like a ghost through these halls was gone. In his place stood a gift, wrapped in trust for delivery. Queen Valerica waited at the foot of the tower stairs. She wore her finest remaining gown, the velvet patched but still regal. Her expression was one of grim satisfaction. "Stepmother," Oliver whispered, the title tasting like ash. "Please, there must be another way." Her eyes flicked over him, assessing the merchandise. "There is not. Your tears last night changed nothing, and they will change nothing now." The Regent's emissary signed the treaty in his own blood. The bargain is sealed. Oliver's knees buckled. One of the maids caught his elbow, gripping hard enough to bruise. "I am your family," he tried again, voice cracking. "Your husband's son. You are a mouth I no longer have to feed," Valerica cut in coldly. "A weakness I no longer have to hide. Do not mistake tolerance for affection, boy. I kept you alive because killing the late King's Get would have stirred unrest I could not afford. Now unrest comes from the north, and you are the price of peace." She stepped closer, lowering her voice so the guards would not hear. "Spread your legs and bear his brat if you wish to live. Omegas who fail him do not return, even in pieces." Oliver could only nod, tears sliding silently down his cheeks. Valerica's lip curled in disgust at the sight. "Enough of that. You will not shame Shen with sniveling." She turned to the captain of the guard. "Deliver him intact and unmarked above the waist." The regent was specific. The captain inclined his head. Rough hands closed around Oliver's upper arms, steering him out into the courtyard. The cold bit through the thin silk at once, raising gooseflesh along his arms and legs. He stumbled on the uneven stones. No one slowed for him. At the carriage door he paused, looking back one last time at the only home he had ever known. The tower window where he had spent countless hours reading was a dark, empty square high above. No face appeared there. No one waved farewell. The captain lifted him bodily into the carriage as though he weighed nothing. The door slammed shut. The crimson ribbons on his wrists caught on the iron latch, tugging painfully before snapping free. Inside, the carriage was bare. No cushions, no windows save narrow slits high in the walls. Only a single iron ring bolted to the floor, through which a short chain had been threaded. The captain knelt, locked the chain to the knot between Oliver's bound wrists, and rose without a word. The message was clear. Escape was not contemplated. The carriage lurched forward. Oliver fell sideways, catching himself awkwardly on one shoulder. Through the slits he glimpsed the grey walls of Shen receding, then the mist-shrouded fields, then nothing but barren road stretching north. Each turn of the wheels carried him deeper into the Iron Empire's shadow. The silk grew damp with his tears. The sash cut into his ribs with every sob he tried to stifle. He thought of the stories whispered about Blackhold, of wives locked away, of children born only to die, of a regent whose touch was colder than the mountain stone. Hours bled into days. They stopped only to change horses and force water between his lips. No one spoke to him. At night the guards camped beside the carriage. He remained chained inside, wrists raw, curling into the smallest space the chain allowed to preserve what little warmth the silk provided. On the 5th evening the road began to climb. The air sharpened, carrying the bite of snow. Through the slits, Oliver saw jagged peaks rising like broken teeth against a sky, the color of old steel. Blackhold. The fortress appeared suddenly as the carriage rounded a switchback, a monstrous silhouette blotting out the last light of day. Its spires clawed at low clouds. Torches flickered along walls thick enough to withstand siege for years. It looked less like a castle and more like a beast crouched upon the mountain, waiting. The carriage halted in a cavernous gatehouse. Torchlight painted everything in shades of blood and shadow. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, stealing Oliver's breath. Strong hands hauled him out. His legs, cramped from days of confinement, gave way at once. He would have fallen had the guards not held him upright. The crimson silk was travel-stained now, torn at one hem, but the color still blazed garishly against the black stone. They marched him across an echoing courtyard. Oliver's bare feet, his old shoes had not fit beneath the ceremonial gown, found only ice-slick flagstones. Each step burned. Ahead, massive doors of blackened oak stood open. Beyond them waited a cavernous hall lit by 100 torches, the air thick with pitch smoke and the scent of old iron. And at the far end, raised upon a dais of dark steel, sat the Alpha Regent. Tristan Elwood was larger than any man Oliver had ever seen. Black armor absorbed the torchlight, giving no reflection. His face was exactly as the stories described, hard, cold, unforgiving. Storm-gray eyes fixed on Oliver with the detached curiosity of a man examining a new blade. Oliver's guards forced him to his knees at the foot of the dais. The chain between his wrists clinked against the stone. He could not lift his head. Terror glued his gaze to the floor. A long silence stretched, broken only by the crackle of torches. Then Tristan spoke, his voice a low rumble that seemed to rise from the mountain itself. "Bring him closer." The guards obeyed. Oliver was dragged forward until he knelt directly beneath the throne. Only then did he dare glance up. The regent's gaze stripped him bare, not with lust, but with clinical assessment. Oliver felt the weight of that stare like iron bands tightening around his chest. Tristan leaned forward slightly, the movement making the throne creak. "So," he said softly, "this is the vessel they sent." Oliver began to tremble uncontrollably. The crimson silk could not hide it. The ribbons on his wrists shook like leaves in wind. Tristan's lips curved, not quite a smile, more the acknowledgement of a problem finally delivered into his hands. "Welcome to Blackhold, little Omega," he murmured. "Your cage awaits." And in the flickering torchlight, the crimson silk looked less like ceremonial finery and more like the first shedding of blood. Chapter 4. The Iron Gaze. The great hall of Blackhold swallowed sound and light alike. Torch flames clung low to their iron sconces, as though afraid to rise too high. The air tasted of cold stone, old smoke, and the faint metallic tang of armor polish. Oliver was marched the final distance between two columns of silent soldiers. His bare feet had gone numb somewhere on the long trek across the courtyard. The crimson silk, once pristine, now clung damply to his legs, stained with mud, sweat, and the tears he could no longer stop. The ceremonial ribbons at his wrists had loosened during the journey. One fluttered like a dying bird. The guards halted him 10 paces from the dais. They stepped back, leaving him alone in the open space before the throne. Tristan Elwood did not rise. He sat motionless in his blackened steel seat, legs spread, elbows resting on the armrests, gloved hands loosely clasped. The armor he wore was not ceremonial, it was battle-worn, etched with faint scratches and darkened in places by old blood that had never been fully cleaned away. His helm rested on a stand beside the throne, revealing the hard planes of his face and the storm-gray eyes that watched Oliver with the dispassionate interest of a man appraising livestock. Oliver felt the weight of that gaze like iron pressing on his chest. He tried to stand straighter, tried to still his trembling, but his body betrayed him. His shoulders hunched. His bound hands shook before him. His breath came in shallow, audible gasps. Tristan let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. Then he spoke. "Step forward." The command was quiet, yet it rolled through the hall like distant thunder. Oliver's legs moved before his mind could refuse. 3 small, faltering steps. He stopped when he could feel the heat radiating from the Regent's armored boot. Tristan tilted his head slightly, studying him. "Small," he said. The word flat and final. "Frightened and weak." Each adjective landed like a slap. Oliver flinched at every one. From the shadowed galleries high above, soft rustlings could be heard, fabric shifting, quiet breaths held. The 4 wives of the Iron Regent watched from behind carved stone screens. They had been summoned to witness the arrival of the new offering, though none had been told why an Omega male had been brought to Blackhold. Tristan rose in one fluid motion. The armor made almost no sound, a testament to its craftsmanship and the care with which it was maintained. He descended the 3 shallow steps of the dais and circled Oliver slowly, boots ringing against the flagstones. Oliver kept his eyes on the floor. He could see the Regent's shadow moving around him, long and dark, swallowing the torchlight. Tristan stopped behind him. Oliver felt the heat of his body even through the armor. A gloved hand, huge, unyielding, closed around the back of Oliver's neck. Not tightly enough to hurt, but firmly enough to make escape impossible. The grip tilted Oliver's head back, forcing him to look up into the Regent's face. Their eyes met. Oliver had expected cruelty. Instead, he found something colder: evaluation, calculation. The gaze of a man deciding whether a tool would serve its purpose or should be discarded. "You are shaking," Tristan observed, voice low enough that only Oliver could hear. "Good. Fear is honest." He released Oliver's neck and stepped in front of him again. With deliberate slowness, he reached out and caught the loose end of one crimson ribbon. He tugged it once. The knot came undone, falling away. He did the same to the other wrist. The ribbons dropped to the stone like shed blood. Oliver's hands were free, yet he did not dare move them. Tristan took one step back and addressed the hall, his voice carrying effortlessly to every corner. "From this day forward, this Omega belongs to me, completely." His tears. He reached out and brushed a thumb across Oliver's wet cheek, collecting the moisture on the leather glove. "Are mine." His breath. He placed the same gloved hand over Oliver's chest, feeling the frantic hammering beneath the silk. "Is mine." His heartbeat. He pressed slightly harder. "Is mine." His heartbeat. He pressed slightly harder. "Is mine." He removed his hand. Oliver swayed, dizzy with terror and lack of air. Tristan turned his head toward the shadowed galleries. His voice sharpened. "And let it be known, any hand that touches what is mine without my command will be severed. Any tongue that speaks against him will be silenced forever. Any eye that looks upon him with lust or pity will be blinded. He is no guest. He is no prisoner. He is property of the Iron Empire, and through him my line will continue." A low murmur rippled through the hall, soldiers shifting, servants exchanging glances. From the galleries came only silence. Oliver could feel the weight of 4 pairs of eyes boring into him. He did not dare look up to meet them. He already knew what he would see: jealousy, resentment, the bitter knowledge that a trembling boy from a dying kingdom had been given what they had failed to provide for a decade. Tristan returned his attention to Oliver. "You will be bathed, fed, and prepared," he said, tone matter of fact. "Tonight you sleep in the chamber adjoining mine. Tomorrow we begin." Oliver's lips parted, but no sound emerged. His throat had closed on terror. Tristan regarded him for one last moment, then gave a curt nod to the guard. "Take him." Rough hands seized Oliver's arms again. They turned him and marched him toward a side passage. As he was led away, he heard the regent's voice one final time, addressing the whole rather than him. "Let the wives return to the silken quarter. They have seen enough." The words were calm, almost gentle. They were also a dismissal, a reminder that the women who had once been chosen for their beauty and lineage were now, in this moment, irrelevant. Oliver was pulled into the corridor. The heavy doors closed behind him, with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. He did not cry again. Not then. The tears had dried somewhere on the long road north. In their place was something colder. The certain knowledge that he had just been claimed, not as a person, but as an instrument. Somewhere behind him, in the shadowed galleries, 4 women watched the crimson silk disappear into the dark. Their expressions varied: bitterness, scorn, fear, and something darker still. None of them yet understood that the arrival of the fragile Omega had not ended their relevance. It had only begun their replacement. And in the heart of Blackhold, the stone walls seemed to lean inward, listening, waiting for the first crack in the Iron Regent's carefully forged control. Chapter 5. The Conqueror's Claim. The chamber was not a bridal suite. It was a war room disguised as a bedchamber. Heavy tapestries of ancient battles covered the walls, their faded threads depicting wolves tearing apart stags, eagles crushing serpents, men in black armor driving spears through fallen kings. A single massive bed dominated the space, built of dark oak and iron, its posts thick as ship masts, its canopy draped in black wool rather than silk. No fire burned in the hearth. The only light came from a branched candelabrum on a side table, its flames low and steady, throwing long shadows that moved like living things. Oliver had been brought here after the bath. Servants, silent, efficient women with downcast eyes, had stripped away the ruined crimson gown, scrubbed his skin until it was raw, oiled his hair, and dressed him in a thin white shift that reached only to mid-thigh. They had not spoken a word. When they finished, they had bowed and left him alone, locking the door behind them. He had stood in the center of the room for what felt like hours, arms wrapped around himself, trying not to shake. The shift was too light for the mountain cold. Goose flesh covered his arms and legs. His freshly washed hair hung damp against his neck. When the door finally opened again, he knew without turning who it was. Tristan entered alone. He had removed his armor, but he was no less imposing. He wore only a black linen shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbow, and close-fitting leather breeches. The shirt was unlaced at the throat, revealing the hard line of his collarbone and the faint scars that crossed his skin. His feet were bare on the stone. He closed the door with deliberate care, and the lock clicked like a shackle. Oliver's breath caught. He backed away until his shoulders met the cold stone wall beside the hearth. Tristan did not speak at first. He simply looked at Oliver, slowly, thoroughly, as if memorizing the shape of what now belonged to him. Then he crossed the room in 3 long strides. Oliver tried to shrink smaller. "Please," he whispered, the words scraping out of his throat. "My lord, Regent, I'm not ready." Tristan stopped an arm's length away. His expression did not change. "You were brought here for one purpose," he said, voice low and even. "Readiness has nothing to do with it." He reached out and caught Oliver's chin, forcing his face up. Oliver's eyes filled instantly with tears. "You will cry," Tristan said, almost gently. "You will beg. It will change nothing." He released Oliver's chin and grasped the collar of the white shift instead. One sharp pull tore the fabric from neck to hem. The linen parted like paper. Oliver gasped, clutching at the remnants, but Tristan stripped them away and tossed them aside, leaving him bare. Oliver's hands flew to cover himself, arms crossing over his chest, thighs pressing together. Tristan allowed it for a moment, watching the futile attempt at modesty, then caught both of Oliver's wrists in one hand and pinned them above his head against the wall. Oliver whimpered, twisting, but the grip was iron. Tristan's body pressed forward, crowding him, chest to chest, thigh forcing between his own. The heat of the Regent's skin was shocking after the cold room. Tristan leaned in until his lips brushed Oliver's ear. "I have waited years for an heir," he murmured. "4 wives failed me. Their bodies were strong, their blood noble, and still the gods denied me. Perhaps they require something softer, something that yields." His free hand slid down Oliver's side, slow, possessive, over the curve of rib, waist, hip. Oliver shuddered violently, tears spilling over. "Please don't," he begged, voice breaking. I'll do anything else. Anything." Tristan's mouth moved to the hollow beneath Oliver's jaw. "There is nothing else." He lifted Oliver bodily, effortlessly, and carried him the few steps to the bed. Oliver kicked weakly, sobbing, but Tristan simply dropped him onto the furs and followed him down, pinning him with his weight. The mattress barely dipped beneath the Regent's bulk. Tristan caught Oliver's flailing wrists again, forcing them to the bed on either side of his head. He held them there with one hand, while the other worked the laces of his own breeches. Oliver turned his face away, eyes squeezed shut, tears streaming into his hair. "No, no, please." Tristan did not answer with words. He shifted his hips, parting Oliver's thighs with his own, and entered him in one unrelenting thrust. The pain was immediate and blinding. Oliver cried out, a raw, broken sound that echoed off the stone walls. His body arched, trying instinctively to escape, but Tristan's weight held him pinned. There was no pause, no gentleness, no preparation beyond the scant oil the servants had applied under Tristan's earlier orders. Tristan moved with the same cold purpose he brought to every conquest, deep, forceful strokes that claimed rather than caressed. His breath was steady against Oliver's neck, his grip on Oliver's wrists never loosened. Each thrust drove a fresh sob from Oliver's throat, each withdrawal left him trembling in anticipation of the next. Oliver's pleas dissolved into wordless gasps. The world narrowed to the overwhelming size of the man above him, the iron strength of his body, the relentless drive toward a single goal. There was no affection in it, no desire for pleasure, only the ruthless intent to plant his seed, to force life where none had taken before. Time lost meaning. Pain blurred into a dull, throbbing ache. Oliver's voice gave out. His tears soaked the furs beneath his head. At some point, his body stopped fighting and simply endured. Tristan's rhythm never faltered. His free hand moved to Oliver's hip, angling him higher, deeper. A low growl rumbled in his chest, not pleasure, but grim satisfaction. When he finally spent himself, it was with a single hard thrust that buried him to the hilt. He held there, pulsing inside Oliver, as if willing his seed to take root through sheer force of will. Only then did he release Oliver's wrists. Oliver's arms fell limp to the bed. He lay trembling, staring at the dark canopy above, breath hitching in silent sobs. Between his legs he felt the warm evidence of what had been done to him, the ache that promised to linger for days. Tristan withdrew slowly and rolled to the side. He did not leave the bed. Instead, he pulled Oliver against his chest, possessive, inescapable, his heavy arm pinning the smaller man in place. Oliver stiffened, but there was no strength left to resist. He lay curled against the Regent's bare chest, feeling the steady, unhurried beat of a heart that had never known mercy. Tristan's voice came out of the dark, quiet and final. "You will quicken with my child," he said. "The curse will break, or you will break with it. Either way, you are mine now." His hand settled low on Oliver's belly. Large, warm, immovable. "Sleep." There was no comfort in the command, only ownership. Oliver closed his eyes. The candles had burned lower. Shadows danced across the battle tapestries like silent witnesses. In the silence that followed, the bond was sealed, not in tenderness, but in pain. And somewhere deep in the stone heart of Blackhold, something ancient stirred, listening to the first quiet sob of the Omega who might finally end, or deepen. The Curse of the Iron Regent. Chapter 6. Seeds of Obsession. The weeks that followed the claiming blurred into a gray, endless winter. Blackhold's corridors were labyrinthine and cold, lit by sputtering torches that threw more shadow than light. Oliver learned them quickly because he was allowed nowhere else. His world shrank to the Regent's private wing, the vast bedchamber, an adjoining solo with tall, narrow windows, a small bathing room of black marble, and the narrow balcony that overlooked a sheer drop into mist-shrouded ravines. He saw no one but servants, and at night, Tristan. The Regent came to him often. Not every night. There were campaigns to plan, borders to watch, rebellions to crush. But often enough that Oliver's body learned to tense at the sound of the key in the lock. Tristan never spoke more than necessary. He took what he wanted with the same ruthless efficiency he had shown on the first night, then left before dawn. Sometimes he stayed long enough to pin Oliver against his chest afterward. One heavy arm locked across his waist like an iron band, but there was no tenderness in it. It was possession, nothing more. Oliver endured. He had no choice. He ate what was brought to him, because refusal earned a cold stare that promised worse consequences. He bathed when ordered. He slept when exhaustion overtook him. He did not cry anymore, not where anyone could see. The tears came only in the gray hours before sunrise, when the bed was empty and the fortress silent. The first sign came quietly. One morning, as a silent maid unlaced his sleeping gown, Oliver felt a wave of nausea so sudden and violent that he doubled over the basin, retching though his stomach was empty. The maid's eyes widened, but she said nothing. By evening, the same thing happened again. Then again the next day. The fortress healers were summoned, 3 stern women in gray robes who examined him with impersonal hands. They pressed fingers to his abdomen, listened to his pulse, drew a single drop of blood that they studied over a brazier of herbs. When they withdrew to confer in low voices, Oliver sat on the edge of the bed, arms wrapped around himself, dread pooling cold in his belly. They returned with their verdict. "He is with child." The words struck like a blade. Oliver's breath left him in a rush. He had known it was possible, had known it was the only reason he had been brought here, but hearing it spoken made it real. A life, fragile and unwanted, growing inside the body that had already been taken against his will. The healers bowed and left. The news traveled faster than wind through stone corridors. Tristan came that night earlier than usual. He entered without knocking, still in his black armor, cloak dusted with fresh snow. His eyes found Oliver immediately, curled in the window seat, knees drawn to his chest, staring out at the endless white peak. The Regent crossed the room in silence and stopped before him. Oliver did not look up. He could feel the intensity of that gaze like heat from a forge. "Stand," Tristan said. Oliver obeyed slowly, legs unsteady. The shift he wore was loose now. The servants had replaced the thin white linen with heavier wool to ward off the mountain chill. Tristan's gloved hand rose. Oliver flinched, expecting the usual grip on his chin or throat. Instead, the hand settled, almost carefully, over the slight curve of his lower belly. The touch was light, but the possession in it was unmistakable. Oliver's breath trembled. Tristan's storm-gray eyes searched his face, then dropped to where his hand rested. "How long?" the Regent asked, voice low. "The healers say 1 week, perhaps 2. A long silence. Then Tristan's thumb moved, once, slowly, across the fabric. "It lives," he said. "Not a question." Oliver swallowed. "Yes, my lord." Something shifted in Tristan's expression. Not warmth, never that, but a new intensity, sharp and predatory. The cold calculation that had always defined him, narrowed, focused, until it seemed to pierce straight through flesh to the tiny life beneath. He did not remove his hand. "From this moment," he said, "you will not leave these chambers without my permission. You will not walk the corridors alone. You will not climb stairs unaccompanied. You will eat what the healers command, sleep when they command, and speak to no one without my leave." Oliver's voice came out a whisper. "Am I a prisoner now more than before?" Tristan's gaze lifted to meet his. "You are the vessel of my air. Nothing, not your comfort, not your will, not your life, matters beside that. Do you understand?" Oliver nodded, tears threatening again. He blinked them back fiercely. Tristan studied him a moment longer, then stepped away. He removed his gloves, tossing them onto a table, and summoned the servants with a sharp command. Within minutes, the room filled with quiet activity. Fresh furs piled on the bed. A low fire kindled in the hearth for the first time since Oliver's arrival. Trays of food brought and arranged within reach. Tristan watched it all with folded arms. When the servants withdrew, he approached again. This time he caught Oliver's wrist, not roughly, and led him to the bed. He pressed him down onto the edge, then knelt, an astonishing sight, the Iron Regent on one knee before a trembling Omega, and placed both bare hands on Oliver's abdomen. The touch was clinical at first, mapping the faint swell. But something in Tristan's face changed as he felt the subtle firmness beneath soft skin. His brows drew together. His jaw tightened. He leaned forward until his forehead nearly touched Oliver's chest, eyes closed, as though listening for something only he could hear. Oliver sat frozen, afraid to breathe. After a long moment, Tristan spoke, voice rougher than before. "You will not fail me." It was not comfort. It was not reassurance. It was a command to the child, to fate, to the curse itself. He rose abruptly and turned away, striding to the door. "Sleep," he ordered without looking back. "I will return tomorrow." The lock clicked behind him. Alone again, Oliver curled onto his side amid the new furs. One hand drifted to his belly, resting where Tristan's had been moments before. He felt nothing yet, no movement, no flutter, only the quiet, terrifying certainty of change. In the nights that followed, the pattern shifted. Tristan still took him, sometimes with the same brutal efficiency, sometimes slower, as though testing whether gentleness might coax the child to thrive. But afterward he no longer left. He stayed, one arm locked around Oliver's waist, palms spread protectively over the growing curve. Some nights Oliver woke to find the Regent awake, staring at the ceiling, fingers tracing idle circles on his skin. The obsession grew visibly. Guards were posted outside the chamber doors day and night. Healers visited twice daily. Meals became ritual. Tristan himself inspected every dish before allowing Oliver to eat. When Oliver grew dizzy standing too long at the window, Tristan carried him to the bed without a word. When nausea struck, a basin appeared as if by magic, and a cool cloth pressed to his brow by the Regent's own hand. Yet the harshness remained. If Oliver hesitated to eat, Tristan's voice turned to ice. If he wept, the tears were ignored or wiped away impatiently. Questions were met with silence. Affection, true affection, was never offered. Oliver was guarded like a priceless relic, tended like a prized mare, watched like a prisoner who might bolt. And through it all, Tristan's gaze followed him everywhere, predatory, possessive, unblinking. In the quiet moments, when the fortress slept and the fire burned low, Oliver sometimes felt those eyes on him, even in the dark. He would turn to find Tristan awake, staring at the faint outline of his body beneath the furs, expression unreadable. The Iron Regent had not softened. He had simply found a new focus for his conquest. The fragile life that might finally prove his blood was not poison. And in the cold stone heart of Blackhold, the seeds of something darker than duty began to take root. Chapter 7. The Swelling Proof. Spring came late to the Iron Kingdoms, a reluctant thaw that turned the mountain snows to sluggish rivers of meltwater. Inside Blackhold, however, the season arrived in the unmistakable curve of Oliver's belly. By the 5th month there was no hiding it. The loose wool gowns the servants provided could no longer drape flat. The fabric stretched taut over the firm, rounded swell that rose beneath Oliver's ribs. When he walked, slowly now, one hand often resting low on his abdomen, the shift of weight was visible to every eye. His skin had taken on a faint, luminous sheen. His once slender wrists and ankles had softened with new flesh. The child inside him moved often, small flutters that grew into unmistakable kicks, as though impatient to claim its place in the world. The fortress noticed. Whispers followed Oliver wherever the guards allowed him to go, which was almost nowhere. Servants who had once averted their eyes now stole glances at his middle. Soldiers posted along the corridors stood a fraction straighter when he passed. Even the torches seemed to burn brighter in the Regent's wing, as if the stone itself sensed the shift. But nowhere was the change felt more sharply than in the silken quarter. The 4 wives had been summoned once, weeks earlier, to witness the healer's confirmation. They had stood behind their carved screens in the great hall, veiled and silent, while Tristan laid his bare hand on Oliver's still flat belly and declared the curse broken. Since then they had been confined to their gilded wing with greater strictness than before. Messengers no longer carried their petitions to the Regent. Their requests for audiences went unanswered. Jealousy festered like an open wound. Lady Isolde, the first wife, paced her chambers until the carpets wore thin. 10 years she had spent at Tristan's side. 10 years of dutiful submission, of enduring his cold touch and colder indifference, only for a sniveling boy from a rotting kingdom to succeed in months. She smashed a priceless southern mirror with her own hands, watching the shards scatter like ice. The southern sisters, second and third wives, plotted in low voices behind silk curtains. They spoke of poison subtle enough to fell an omega without harming the child, then discarded the idea when they realized Tristan's new vigilance made it impossible. Their beauty, once their pride, now felt like a mockery. The Regent had not summoned them to his bed since Oliver's arrival. Young Seraphina IV wept silently into her pillows. She had been little more than a child herself when she came to Blackhold, full of trembling hope. Now she was nothing, less than nothing. A failure eclipsed by a fragile outsider who had never even wanted the honor. Their rage turned inward, then outward again, circling always back to the Omega who carried what they could not. In the Regent's wing the atmosphere was different, tighter, heavier, charged with a new kind of silence. Tristan's rules had become law carved in stone. Oliver was no longer permitted the narrow balcony. The drop was deemed too dangerous. The winding stair to the solar had been blocked with an iron gate. Even within the bedchamber and adjoining rooms, his movements were watched. 2 guards stood outside the door at all hours. A healer slept on a pallet in the antechamber. Servants entered only in pairs, and only when summoned. Tristan himself was there more often than ever. He returned from council meetings earlier. He inspected the trays of food personally, testing each dish for temperature and taste before allowing Oliver to eat. When Oliver's back ached from the child's weight, Tristan summoned the healers to knead warmed oils into his skin, then dismissed them and continued the task himself, his large hands moving with surprising care over the taut curve. Yet the harshness had not vanished. It had simply changed shape. If Oliver tried to stand too long, Tristan's voice cut through the room like a blade. If he winced at a sudden kick, the Regent was there instantly, hands splayed over the spot, eyes narrowed as though daring the child to cause pain. When nightmares woke Oliver gasping, memories of that first brutal night, Tristan pinned him down until the trembling stopped, murmuring not comfort but commands. Be still. The child needs rest. Oliver lived in the eye of a storm that had narrowed to a single point, the life inside him. He was more terrified than ever. Tristan's attention was no longer distant or impersonal. It was constant, unrelenting, focused with an intensity that made Oliver's skin prickle. When he undressed for bed, he felt those storm-gray eyes tracing every new inch of stretched skin, every faint blue vein that had risen beneath the surface. When the child moved, Tristan's hand was there within moments, pressing firmly, possessively, as if confirming his claim on what grew beneath. One evening, as snow still clung to the highest peaks beyond the windows, Oliver stood before the hearth trying to ease the ache in his lower back. The fire had been lit, another change. The chamber was kept warmer now, and the glow painted gold across his swollen belly. Tristan entered without sound. Oliver startled anyway, turning too quickly and catching his hip on the mantel. Pain flared. He gasped, one hand flying to his side. In an instant, Tristan was across the room. He caught Oliver's arm, steadying him, then guided him to the cushioned chair that had appeared weeks ago, wide, sturdy, placed close to the fire. Foolish, Tristan said, voice low and rough. You will not risk yourself. Oliver lowered himself carefully, breath shallow. It was only a bum. The babe is fine. Tristan did not answer. Instead he knelt, an increasingly common sight that never failed to unsettle Oliver, and placed both hands on the curve of Oliver's belly. The child kicked hard, as though in greeting. Tristan's expression shifted. Something fierce and triumphant flashed across his hard features. He is strong, Tristan murmured. His thumbs traced slow arcs over the fabric. He will live. Oliver swallowed. You believe it is a boy? Tristan's gaze lifted. For once, it was not cold. It burned. I know it. He did not rise immediately. His hands remained where they were, warm through the thin wool, feeling each small shift and roll of the child. Oliver sat frozen, heart hammering. The silence stretched until it felt like a living thing. Then Tristan spoke again, quieter still. You will not walk near the hearth without me. You will not stand without support. You will call for me the moment anything feels wrong. Do you understand? Oliver nodded, throat tight. Tristan's fingers tightened briefly, not painful but possessive, before he finally stood. That night, when Tristan took him to bed, it was different. Slower, almost careful. He braced his weight on his arms, mindful of the belly between them. One hand stayed cradled beneath the swell, as though shielding it even in intimacy. When Oliver whimpered, not from pain but from the overwhelming strangeness of it, Tristan pressed his lips to the curve of his throat and held still until the trembling eased. Afterward, he did not roll away. He drew Oliver close against his chest, palms spread wide over the child as always. Oliver lay awake long after the Regent's breathing had deepened. He stared into the firelight dancing on the stone walls, and felt the weight of that hand like a brand. He was still a prisoner, still a vessel, but the chains had changed. They were no longer only around his wrists and ankles. They were wrapped now around the life he carried, the undeniable swelling proof that the curse might finally be broken. And in the darkness, with Tristan's arm locked across him like iron, and the child kicking steadily beneath his heart, Oliver understood something new. The Regent's obsession had found its perfect focus. There would be no escape from it, not for him, and not for the son who already ruled them both. Hash hash hash. Chapter 8. The Stone Cracks. The 7th month brought a heaviness that settled deep in Oliver's bones. He moved slowly now, each step measured, one hand always braced beneath the taut dome of his belly. The child had grown large and restless, pressing against his ribs, kicking at odd hours with a strength that stole his breath. Sleep came in fragments. The weight made every position uncomfortable. Yet the fortress had adapted around him like a living thing. Cushions appeared wherever he sat, warmed bricks were slipped beneath his feet at night, and the fire in the hearth never died. Tristan was the architect of it all. The Regent's presence had become constant. Council meetings were shortened. Border reports were brought to the private wing so he could read them in the solar while Oliver rested nearby. Evenings that once ended with Tristan's abrupt departure now stretched long into the night. He would sit in the high-backed chair beside the bed, armor discarded, shirt unlaced, watching the rise and fall of Oliver's breathing with the stillness of a predator who had finally cornered his prey. At first, Oliver thought it was vigilance alone, the same ruthless guarding of the air. But something else had begun to seep through the cracks in the iron. It started with small things. One morning, a servant entered carrying a bolt of silk the color of midnight sky, shot through with silver threads that caught the firelight like stars. She laid it across the foot of the bed and withdrew without a word. Later, when Oliver touched it, Tristan spoke from the doorway. "It will not chafe your skin," he said. "The southern looms. Soft enough for you now." Oliver had stared at him, fingers curled in the luxurious fabric, unsure how to answer. It was the first gift anyone had given him since his arrival. More followed. A cushion stuffed with down from rare mountain geese, contoured to support his back. A small silver cup for water, kept always at his bedside. A comb carved from pale whalebone, its teeth gentle enough for hair that had grown thick and unruly with pregnancy. A fur-lined cloak for the rare moments he was allowed on the sheltered balcony, heavy enough to ward off the wind but light on his shoulders. Each arrived without ceremony. Tristan never presented them himself. They simply appeared, and later, when Oliver hesitantly offered thanks, the Regent would nod once, expression unreadable, and change the subject. But the true shift came in the quiet hours. One night, after a day of relentless kicking that left Oliver pale and exhausted, Tristan entered later than usual. Snow still clung to his cloak. His face was drawn with the fatigue of a long ride from the lower passes. He dismissed the healer with a gesture and approached the bed. Oliver lay on his side, propped with pillows, one hand resting on the high curve of his belly. The child had finally quieted. Tristan removed his cloak and sat on the edge of the mattress, closer than he had ever lingered when not taking his pleasure. He reached out, hesitated, then placed his bare hand over Oliver's. Oliver tensed, but the touch was not demanding. Tristan guided Oliver's smaller hand aside and replaced it with his own, palm spread wide across the stretched skin. For a long moment he was still. Then the child moved, a slow, deliberate roll that pressed outward against the Regent's hand. Tristan's breath caught, the sound sharp in the silence. He leaned forward, shoulders bowing slightly, and rested his forehead against the curve of Oliver's belly. The position was one of unmistakable reverence, almost submission, from a man who had never bowed to anyone. Oliver froze. He could feel the warmth of Tristan's brow through the thin linen shift, the faint tremor in the hand that held him. The Regent's eyes were closed. His lashes, dark and unexpectedly long, brushed Oliver's skin. Another kick. Stronger. Tristan exhaled, a low, ragged sound. When he spoke, his voice was rough, barely above a whisper. "Strong," he said again, as he had months ago. But this time, there was something new in it. something that sounded perilously close to wonder. He did not move for a long while. His thumb traced slow, absent circles over the place where the child pressed. Oliver lay rigid, heart hammering, afraid to break whatever fragile spell had settled over the room. Eventually, Tristan straightened. But he did not leave the bed. He shifted instead, stretching out behind Oliver, one arm sliding carefully beneath the pillows, the other settling once more over the swell of his belly. He drew Oliver back against his chest, spooning him with a gentleness that felt alien on such a large, hard body. Oliver's breath trembled. Tristan's lips brushed the nape of his neck. Not a kiss, not quite, but a lingering press of warmth. "Sleep," the Regent murmured. "I will listen." And he did. Through the night, Oliver drifted in and out of uneasy rest, always aware of the solid weight behind him, the hand that never left his belly. When the child stirred, Tristan's fingers tightened slightly, as though reassuring himself it was real. Once, when Oliver woke, gasping from a cramp in his leg, Tristan was already moving, kneading the muscle with careful strength until the pain eased. In the grey pre-dawn light, Oliver turned his head just enough to see the Regent's face in profile. Tristan's eyes were open, fixed on the curve beneath his hand. The usual coldness was gone. In its place was something raw and unguarded, awe, fierce protectiveness, and beneath it all the same dark possession that had always defined him. But the edges had softened, just enough to let something else bleed through. Oliver closed his eyes again, confusion swirling in his chest. This was the same man who had torn his wedding shift, who had taken him without mercy, who had declared his tears and breath and heartbeat property of the Empire. That man had not vanished. He was still there, in the iron grip that could tighten in an instant, in the commands that still brooked no refusal. Yet here he lay, wrapped around Oliver like a shield, listening to their child's heartbeat with the devotion of a supplicant at an altar. Oliver did not understand it. He feared it, even as some traitorous part of him, starved for any scrap of kindness, leaned back into the warmth. When morning fully came, Tristan rose as always. The armor returned, the distance returned. He gave orders to the healers in his usual clipped tone, inspected the breakfast tray, and left for the day's duties without a backward glance. But the gifts kept coming. A small music box from the Eastern Isles, its tunes soft and lilting, placed on the table where Oliver could wind it when the nights grew too quiet. A necklace of black pearls, laid carefully on the pillow one evening. Too heavy for Oliver's delicate neck now, but beautiful and clearly chosen with him in mind. And every night, without fail, Tristan returned to listen. The stone had not shattered. It had only cracked, thin fissures spreading slowly through centuries of ice. And through those cracks, something unfamiliar was beginning to grow. Hush, hush, Chapter 9. The heir arrives. The first pain came in the dead of night, a sharp, twisting cramp low in Oliver's back that woke him from uneasy sleep. He gasped, curling forward as much as his enormous belly allowed. The child had been quiet all evening, an unusual stillness that had left him restless. Now it felt as though the weight inside him had shifted, pressing downward with sudden, implacable force. Another cramp followed, stronger. Warm fluid trickled between his thighs, soaking the linen sheet. Oliver's breath hitched. He reached instinctively for the bell cord that had been tied to the bedpost months ago, pulling it with trembling urgency. The chime echoed faintly through the stone corridors. Within moments, the chamber door burst open. Healers flooded in, gray-robed and calm, followed by servants carrying basins of hot water and stacks of clean linens. Lamps were lit, the fires stoked high. The quiet room became a storm of quiet, efficient movement. One healer pressed gentle fingers to Oliver's abdomen, then between his legs. Her face remained impassive. "It begins," she said simply. "The waters have broken. The babe comes." Oliver's heart hammered against his ribs. Terror, sharp and familiar, rose like bile in his throat. If the child died, if this one, like all the others before it, drew breath only to lose it, he did not know what Tristan would do. He did not want to know. The pains grew quickly, rolling through him in relentless waves. The healers helped him from the bed to a birthing stool carved of dark wood, its seat wide and sloping. They draped his shoulders with a light linen sheet, wiped sweat from his brow, murmured encouragement he could barely hear over his own ragged breathing. Hours bled together. The pains sharpened into something fierce and animal. Oliver gripped the stool's arms until his knuckles whitened, rocking forward with each contraction, soft cries escaping despite his efforts to stay silent. The healers' voices blended into a low hum. Breathe. Push when it comes. Rest between. He lost track of time. The lamps burned lower, fresh ones replaced them. Snow tapped against the narrow windows, early winter returning to the peaks. At some point, the door opened again and Tristan entered. He had clearly been summoned from sleep, shirt unlaced, feet bare, hair disheveled. Yet the Regent's presence filled the room like a storm cloud. The healers bowed their heads but did not pause their work. Tristan's storm-gray eyes found Oliver immediately, flushed, sweat-soaked, trembling on the stool. For a moment something raw flickered across the hard features. Uncertainty, almost fear. One healer approached him quietly. "My lord, it progresses well, but it will be some hours yet. You may wait in the solar." "No," Tristan said, voice rough. He did not raise it, yet the single word silenced the room. "I remain." He did not come closer. Instead he took position against the far wall, arms folded tight across his chest, gaze fixed on Oliver with unblinking intensity. He looked like a man standing vigil over a battlefield, waiting to see which banner would rise victorious. The healers exchanged glances but said nothing. They turned back to their charge. Oliver barely registered the exchange. Another contraction seized him, fiercer than the last. He bore down with a broken cry, fingers digging into the wood. The night wore on. The pains became a continuous fire. Oliver's voice gave out, his cries turned to hoarse whimpers. His world narrowed to the pressure, the burning, the desperate need to push. He was dimly aware of cool cloths on his brow, of hands supporting his thighs, of quiet commands to breathe, to wait, to push again. And always, at the edge of his blurred vision, Tristan, motionless, jaw clenched so tight the muscles stood out in his cheek. Near dawn, the rhythm changed. The urge to push became overwhelming, irresistible. "No," the head healer said firmly. "Would the next pain bear down hard?" Oliver obeyed. He gathered what little strength remained and pushed with everything in him. A searing pressure built, then released in a rush of fluid and sudden, shocking relief. A thin, furious cry split the air. The room stilled. One healer lifted a slick, writhing bundle, small, red, perfect. She cleared the infant's mouth with practiced fingers. The cry strengthened, indignant and strong. "A son," she announced, voice ringing clear. "Healthy, lungs like forge bellows." Oliver sagged, tears of exhaustion and disbelief spilling down his cheeks. He watched, dazed, as the cord was cut and the child wrapped in soft linen. The afterbirth followed with one final merciful push. Only then did the head healer approach Tristan. "My Lord Regent," she said, bowing low. "The curse is broken. Your heir lives." Tristan did not move at first. His gaze was fixed on the tiny bundle now being cleaned and swaddled by the second healer. Something shifted in his face, slowly, like ice cracking on a deep lake. The iron mask fractured, revealing raw triumph, relief, and something deeper still. He crossed the room in 3 long strides. The healer offered the child. Tristan took him carefully, almost hesitantly, cradling the infant against his broad chest as though he feared his own strength might crush him. The boy's cries quieted almost instantly, tiny fists waving. Tristan stared down at his son for a long, silent moment. Then he lifted his eyes to Oliver. Oliver lay propped against pillows now, pale and spent, hair plastered to his forehead. He met the Regent's gaze, warily, bracing for whatever came next. Tristan approached the bed. He sat on the edge, carefully, mindful of Oliver's exhaustion, and laid the swaddled infant gently in the crook of Oliver's arm. Oliver looked down at the child, dark hair already thick and curling, eyes a stormy gray blue that would likely deepen with time. A perfect, fierce little face. Tristan's hand rose. For a heartbeat, Oliver thought it would settle on the child again. Instead, it came to rest, lightly, almost reverently, on Oliver's damp cheek. "You did it," Tristan said, voice low and rough, with something that might have been an awe. "You gave me what no one else could." His thumb brushed away a tear Oliver had not realized was falling. In that moment, the gaze that met Oliver's was not the cold appraisal of a conqueror, nor the predatory fixation of recent months. It was something new, recognition, acknowledgement, the look of a man seeing, truly seeing, the one who had achieved the impossible at unbearable cost. Oliver's breath trembled. The trauma lingered, sharp and vivid, in every ache of his body, in the memory of that first brutal night and all that followed. It would not vanish because a healthy child now slept against his chest. But for the first time, Tristan looked at him not as vessel or possession. He looked at him as the one who had broken the curse. The victory was absolute. The Iron Regent held his living heir, the empire secure at last. Yet in the quiet aftermath, with snow whispering against the windows and the newborn's breath soft against his skin, Oliver felt the weight of everything that victory had cost. Tristan's hand remained on his cheek a moment longer. Then it slipped to the back of Oliver's neck, drawing him forward with infinite care until their foreheads touched. "Rest now," the Regent murmured. "Both of you are mine to guard." The words were possessive as ever, but the tone was different. And in the pale light of dawn, with the curse shattered and a new life breathing between them, the stone of Blackhold seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would grow in the cracks at last. Hush, hush. Chapter 10. The Gilded Happiness. Spring finally reached the Iron Kingdoms in truth, melting the last snow from the lower passes, and turning the barren valleys green with new growth. In Blackhold, the change was felt more deeply than any seasonal shift. Banners bearing the wolf's sigil flew higher, torches burned brighter, and the great hall rang with voices that no longer whispered of curses. The heir had lived. The line was secure. The empire celebrated. A fortnight after the birth, the naming feast was held. The hall was transformed. Long tables laden with roasted stag, southern spices and wines plundered from distant kingdoms. Musicians from the eastern isles playing strings that wove through the rafters. Torches and candelabra blazing until the stone itself seemed warm. Nobles from every corner of the Iron Kingdoms filled the benches, generals in polished armor, vassal lords in fur and velvet, emissaries from once hostile borders come to swear renewed fealty. At the center of the high table sat Tristan, clad not in battle black but in deep charcoal shot with silver, the wolf embroidered in thread of silver across his chest. In his arms he held the infant prince, swaddled in black and silver silk. Dark hair already thick, tiny fist clutching his father's thumb, with surprising strength. To Tristan's right, in a place of honor never before granted to any wife, sat Oliver. He wore robes of midnight blue, lined with silver fox, the fabric cut wide to accommodate his still softened frame. Around his throat rested the black pearls Tristan had given him months earlier, now joined by a delicate circlet of beaten silver, simple but unmistakable in its meaning. His pale hair had been dressed with small braids at the temples, His cheeks held a faint flush from the hall's warmth, and the wine he sipped sparingly. The four wives sat farther down the table, resplendent in their finery, faces composed into polite masks. They had been summoned, of course. They smiled when required, raised their cups in toasts, applauded when the regent spoke. But their eyes lingered on Oliver with the dull gleam of old wounds. Tristan rose near the end of the feast. The hall quieted at once. He lifted the child slightly higher, the boy blinking solemnly at the sea of faces. "I name my son Cassian Elwood," he declared, voice carrying effortlessly to the farthest corners. "First of his name, heir to the Iron Throne, proof that the gods have turned their gaze upon us once more." Cheers erupted, fists pounding tables, swords ringing against shields. Cassian did not flinch. He yawned, and the hall laughed with indulgent delight. Then Tristan turned to Oliver. He extended his free hand. Oliver took it without hesitation, rising to stand beside him. The hall quieted again, sensing something momentous. "This Omega," Tristan said, his grip firm and warm around Oliver's fingers. "Oliver of House Shen has done what no other could. He has broken the curse upon my blood. He has given the Empire its future." He paused, letting the words settle. "From this day forward, he is no longer vessel or consort. He is my favored. His place is at my side above all others. His word carries my ear. His comfort is my command. Let any who question this answer to me." The silence that followed was absolute. Then the cheers came again, louder, longer. Some were genuine, some were politic. All were deafening. Oliver felt heat rise in his face. He looked out over the sea of bowed heads and felt the weight of what had changed. He was no longer the forgotten sacrifice from a dying kingdom. He was the one who had succeeded where others failed. He was safe. When they sat again, Tristan kept Oliver's hand in his beneath the table, thumb tracing slow circles over his knuckles. Later, when the feast wound down and the guests departed in torchlit processions, Tristan carried the sleeping Cassian himself to the new nursery, adjoining their chambers. Oliver followed, exhaustion and wine making his steps light. The nursery was warm and quiet, a cradle of dark oak lined with wolf fur, a low fire, a wet nurse dozing discreetly in the corner. Tristan laid the boy down with infinite care, lingering to adjust the blanket before turning to Oliver. In the soft glow of the nursery lamp, the regent's face was unguarded. He stepped close, cupping Oliver's cheek with one large hand. "You were magnificent tonight," he said quietly, "as you have been every night since he came." Oliver's throat tightened. He still did not know how to receive such words from this man. "I only did what I was brought here to do," he answered, voice soft. Tristan shook his head once. "You did more. You endured. You gave me what I demanded, and then you gave me what I did not know how to ask for." His thumb brushed Oliver's lower lip. "I was a brute," he said, the admission rough but steady. "I took without mercy. I will not erase that, but know this. I will spend the rest of my days ensuring you never regret the price." Oliver searched his face. The cold storm-gray eyes were warmer now, softened by something fierce and tender that had grown slowly in the cracks of stone. He leaned into the touch, just slightly. "I am safe," he whispered. "Cassian is safe. That is, more than I ever thought to have." Tristan drew him close, careful of his still healing body, and pressed a kiss to his temple, slow, deliberate, reverent. "You will have more," he promised against Oliver's skin. "Everything within my power to give." They stood that way until Cassian stirred and quieted again. Later, in their vast bed, Tristan held Oliver against his chest as he had learned to do, arm curved protectively, palm resting over the place where their son had grown. Oliver's head fit beneath the regent's chin as though shaped for it. Outside, The mountain wind howled around Blackhold's spires, but inside the chamber was warm and quiet. The beginning had been forged in cruelty and non-consent, in tears and terror, and the cold calculation of conquest. That truth would never change. The scars, visible and invisible, would remain. But here in the aftermath they had carved out something else. A life of luxury and security for Oliver, silks and jewels, the Regent's obsessive devotion, a son who would never know hunger or fear. A heart for Tristan that had learned, against all odds, to bend rather than break. It was not the gentle love of softer lands. It was gilded happiness, dark at its roots, shining on the surface, strong enough to endure the weight of an empire. And as Oliver drifted towards sleep, lulled by the steady beat of the heart that had once been stone, he understood that this twisted, hard-won peace was theirs. The curse was broken. The Iron Regent had his heir. And in the quiet heart of Blackhold, the Omega he had once sought to break had become the anchor that held him steady at last. That's all for today on Cherry Blossom BL Story. Thank you for watching. What do you think about this chapter? Did you like it, or do you think something unexpected is coming? Comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stories.